How's it going, guys? My name is Flamers and welcome to Destiny. And it's been quite a long time since I've been on Destiny. It's nice to be back, back on Mars. Still waiting for the new expansion, The Dark Below, but that's to come. But today I'm sort of catching up on all of the exotic weapons that I've had and not reviewed. So this will be the first one, and it is the exotic weapon, heavy weapon, machine gun. He's gonna shoot me. I'm just gonna dodge out of the way here. Yeah, it is super good advice. Now, where did I get this thing from? It's been ages since I got this. I bought it from the Agent of the Nine. Yeah, I must have done. And it is my first heavy weapon exotic that I've had, so it took a little bit of time just to level it up, but I've leveled it up to the second ability as always, just to give you sort of better insight. So yeah, let's just start with the stats. I'll just quickly compare it. I haven't got a legendary machine gun actually. I think a rare will have to do. Okay, so we'll compare it to this one. No, how do you compare? Oh, there we go. So it looks pretty similar. The stats, I mean, it's got relatively good rate of fire. It's got pretty good impact, all that sort of thing. Yeah, that's pretty similar to your normal machine gun. There's not much difference, but let's just have a look at it in more detail. So yeah, it does quite a lot of damage, this thing. That's if you can hit the enemies, but we'll get to that. I'll explain that in a bit. The range isn't great. I think one of these has actually increased it. I think initially, yeah, it's pretty low, the range, so it's not an ideal weapon for shooting from afar. And to be honest, I wouldn't recommend doing that anyway, just because of the recoil, but again, I'll get to that. Stability, sort of misleading, because that looks pretty good to me. It doesn't look too bad, but it's sort of misleading. But yeah, reload sort of made well, I wouldn't say completely irrelevant by this second ability, but the second ability helps with the reload, I guess. So what sort of stuff we got here? Let's have a look. Less recoil, penalty to range. Well, to be honest, I think we'll need any sort of buff for the recoil. You'll see once I start shooting someone, but any sort of buff to recoil, range doesn't matter because you're not going to be using this anyway at a range. So just completely forget about range and try and get that recoil down. Yeah, so the first ability, I guess, will be kills with this weapon grant bonus damage for a short time. Now, this weapon does quite a lot of damage anyway, so I guess more damage can't really go wrong with that. So yeah, that's always a good bonus to have, I guess. It's a nice first ability. Let's go on to the second. Switch weapons faster. Not something I would look for. Maybe some people really like that. Switching weapons for me isn't sort of kill or be killed, I guess. But moving quicker whilst aiming, that's always nice to have. But it's up to you because I mean you have to choose. This weapon is effective at extended range. It's got quite a significant buff on that, which is why I put it on. It's pretty much doubled at least from what it was, and I guess, yeah, I mean that's what I would have anyway. The last one is reload this weapon even faster. I don't know why they do this, but with exotics, they tend to give like improvements that are not really relevant to the weapon. I mean, well, let's go on to the second ability because reload is pretty much made not completely irrelevant because you'll still be reloading, but it says almost all shots that miss their target will return to your magazine. Now, when it says magazine, that means directly to the magazine that you're using, so you don't necessarily have to reload, but that's obviously only if you're missing, so you still have to reload, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I chose to go with range. It's completely up to you, but That's my layout. And lastly, whilst we're on this page, I guess it looks quite nice. I like the red and the white. It's got a nice contrast to it. A really nice looking weapon, and it looks really nice in first person as well. It's a really good looking weapon. It's got a nice scope on it, really open, really clear, really good scope. I'm not too sure why it's got a scope on it, because you're not going to be using this at range. I mean, that's me using it at range, and that is the recoil. Okay, I maybe exaggerated that just a little bit, but that is inevitably the recoil of this weapon. It is pretty bonkers. I guess that would be the word. Yeah, bonkers. So yeah, as you just saw, I was just killing them enemies there, especially the one whilst I was at range. It's really not that effective at all. I can see loads of enemies somewhere, but they're hiding. Yes, it's really not great at range, so I wouldn't recommend trying it. Even if you got the buff on, it doesn't help it that much, and it's mainly down to the recoil. You essentially have to burst shoot this, just so that you can keep your accuracy up and down those enemies. And compared to a lot of other machine guns, there are far better ones with better recoil. But yeah, for some reason, I mean, with this second ability, I know that it's sort of, if you miss, you get the ammo straight back to your clip. But essentially, for me, it leaves this exotic weapon more a standard weapon, because for me, an exotic weapon is something that you've worked hard for. It's meant to be top of its class, and you get a bonus with it. Now, the bonus with this is sort of counterbalancing all the bad points of the weapon. I'm trying to put that simply, sort of, if you have -1 and then a +1, that equals 0. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head how to sort of phrase it. But yeah, -1 + 1 equals 0. So essentially, if you've got one really bad negative plus a positive, you just end up with neutral, which for me shouldn't be how an exotic weapon works. You should have maybe just 1 + 1 positive. So yeah, I don't know if I'm explaining that properly. Yeah, but for me, exotic weapons should have one bonus, which is what they're supposed to be all about. They're supposed to be weapons at the top of their class. They're supposed to be weapons you work hard for and to earn and stuff like that. There shouldn't be legendary weapons that are better than its exotic weapon counterpart. It just shouldn't work like that. But this basically is. Yeah, I mean, let's go on to PvP and PvE. Let's quickly mention PvP. I tried it in PvP. Machine guns are killers in PvP, which is why everybody goes for the heavy weapon ammo straight away. Whether they're using a rocket or a machine gun, they rip through. But if your enemy is at an extended range, you sort of, I wouldn't say at a disadvantage, but I wouldn't even say an advantage either. I would say you're pretty much both. It's going to be either for both of you, kill or be killed. It's but for me shouldn't be how a heavy weapon works really. It should be the heavy. If somebody's got a heavy weapon, that's going to dominate pretty much someone with a primary weapon. But if they're at a range, it's not going to work like that. If they're at point blank, then you're probably just going to sort of cut right through them, which I guess is probably the whole point of this weapon. It's not a weapon for range, which brings me on to PvE. I guess raiding and strikes with bosses and stuff like that. Because they're always at some sort of range, I wouldn't really recommend using this either. For example, Atheon and the Templar, they're always at range. You don't really want to be right next to these guys, and you don't want to be wasting time even missing your target for the majority of the time, because obviously, as you know, Atheon, you get times vengeance, and you got a certain amount of time to put damage into him. And you got the Templar, which is a shield, and you have to put damage into him before his shield comes back up, and you don't want to be wasting time missing your target for the majority. And people like to use machine guns in those instances, because you get bubbles around you which you need to first destroy, so on and so forth. So, but yeah, I wouldn't actually recommend using that in this, and it goes for strikes as well. You're never usually right next to the boss, so this would be sort of, unless you're just burst shooting, which isn't the point of a machine gun. Yeah, there's not much point in using this. I guess PvE, when you've got a load of trash mobs, it's always great to use, obviously with your ammo coming back if you miss, but nothing that's essentially, if you don't kill them you're going to die pretty quick sort of thing. In those sort of instances, probably not best using it, probably worth using something else, which is my last point. Obviously, because you can only have one exotic weapon, unfortunately. Yeah, heavy weapons is quite a hard decision to make, because because you can only use one exotic weapon. I would rather much use a primary weapon, because that's something I'm going to be using all the time. You never really run out of ammo for your primary weapon. You use it 85% of the time. Heavy weapons, you use it when you acquire ammo for it, so for the lot of the time it's out of commission, you're not using it. So is that worth wasting the exotic slot for that purpose? But that's each to their own again. That's something for you to decide, and hopefully I've been sort of detailed enough for you to make a decision as to whether you want the heavy weapon. Super good advice. My advice is, it's not great for PvP, wouldn't recommend it in striking or raiding. It's good for trash clearing, but it doesn't feel exotic. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell, I guess. Can't really think of anything else to mention. No. So yeah, hopefully you found this useful, and it's nice to be back on Destiny. It's nice to be back on Mars. But yeah, I'll see you again soon, guys. So for now, yeah, take care. Cheers for watching.